Hello everybody. My old trapping partner dropped a Wolverine off and asked me to make it into a rug for him. So he already skinned it, but still got to do everything else on it. So I'll walk you through the process. Alright, so first thing we got to do is skin out the paws. I've got a full video on skinning out wolf feet. I got lots of close-ups and everything. It's the exact same process as that. Next thing we're going to do is get this guy fleshed, get all this meat and fat and everything off of it. So I'd show you guys this. You can see here, there's all this discoloration in the hide. You can see something popping up right here. This looks like an old injury, especially when I'm fleshing it. I can feel it's very gristly. So if you're ever doing this and you feel something like that, you gotta be really careful around it because a lot of times the hide is way weaker than it normally would be. So take your time with it, because if you're not careful, a lot of times these old wounds will just rip right open. You'll have a huge mess on your hands. There, we got her all cleaned up, all the flesh is off around it. That's not too bad of a hole. We can sew that up pretty easy, but definitely something to pay attention to so you don't end up with a disaster. The next step is to start the tanning process. So first thing we're going to do is salt the bejesus out of this guy. So I'm going to start. I personally just use this stuff you get at the grocery store. Some people say you have to use the non-iodized stuff. I honestly have not noticed a single difference between using this or the non-iodized. If somebody can tell me a reason why you have to use non-iodized, leave a comment below, because I'd love to know. I have, like I said, found zero differences in the results. So you gotta get a whole bunch of salt on this guy. Okay, and once we do that, thoroughly salted, you flip them first side back out. And we're gonna roll that up, let them sit overnight, and then tomorrow we'll scrape all that salt off of them, put new salt on, roll them up again, and then I'll have to do a bit of a salt bath for them, and then actually put the tanning solution on and start that process. And once that's done, then we can actually start doing the mount for the rug. So it's a bit of a process, but we're working through it. Hey, got all the old salt scraped off again, and now I got them soaking in this bucket of salt water. So we'll leave them in there till this afternoon, and then we'll take them out and give them a rinse with some soap, and then we can actually start applying the tanning solution. I just use the orange bottle tan, works pretty good. So start at the head. Okay, so I'm gonna get this guy turned back first side out and hang him up, and over the next couple days, we'll keep working that hide, and we'll eventually it will be tanned, and then we can can start sewing up some of these little holes. We'll have to do the cuts to actually make it lay out like a rug. We'll have to block it so it lays nice and flat, and then we can start mounting the head and add the felt. And there's a lot left to do on this thing before it's done. It's been a couple days. I turned him back inside out last night. You can see we start pulling on it. Right here it's starting to turn white as it dries. So it's going to take a few days of working this hide. There you can see the legs are really turning good there. As it dries out, you just keep working it. And the more you work it, the more of that tanning solution permeates the leather. When it's totally all in, then it turns this kind of whitish color here. So it's going to be a couple days of doing this, just pulling and waiting and pulling and waiting. But eventually it'll all be totally ready, and then we can actually start putting this rug together. Okay, now this guy is totally tanned. I put him into a bag with some salt water sprayed on to kind of rehydrate it. So I'm going to now do the cuts to actually turn it into a rug. So first thing I'm going to do is just cut the arm, or the front legs I guess, there. And then that's going to help me to be able to open this thing up, back first side out, and then we'll make the rest of the cuts from there. Next step is to block this Wolverine out. So you can see I've kind of got him nailed to the floor here, trying to keep it as even as possible and flat. You see these spots here like this, and here, and up there at the front there's a couple more up there. Those are where I'm going to have to make some cuts and do some sewing. So you're trying to take a round animal and make it flat. So in order to do that, you kind of have to take up some of that extra. You stretch out as much as you can, and then cut some of those relief spots there, sew it up to make it actually lay flat, so it's going to look proper once you actually make it into the rug. So got the Wolverine unnailed. It's looking pretty good. Everything looks like it's pretty square. So next thing I got to do is all the places where there's those kind of folds where we had that extra hide. I'm going to have to sew those together here and then trim off the excess. I'm going to sew up the armpits there. Trim a little bit of the extra part here off. And then it should be laying pretty well flat. And then after that we'll start like soaking the head and the feet and everything so we can get those in position. So start off, we'll get these all sewed up and trimmed up. good. So just do that 7 more times. I think 5 more times, I guess. And yeah, then we can start soaking that head to get the form in there. Got all those pieces sewed up and trimmed off. You can see laying on the table here now. That Wolverine lays perfectly nice and flat. All the arms and the legs and everything are all pointing the right directions. They're all the same. It's symmetrical. The tail's pointing down straight. Head's pointing straight up. So at this point, the blocking is pretty much done. So it's time to start working on this head. So I'm gonna soak this head, kind of wrap it with a bunch of plastic so it really gets nice and soft. And then we're gonna take this guy and put it up inside there, and then this thing will start to look like a Wolverine again. The other thing I'm going to do, I got this thing soaked with water. These are just baby water wipes. So they're all kind of soaked anyways. I'm going to take these and wrap the head around with these. So between the water I sprayed on there and these wet wipes should look pretty good to rehydrate this head. And take a plastic bag. Just for good measure, make sure there's lots of hydration in there. I'll let that sit. There's no real specific time, like, oh, it has to sit for an hour, 2 hours. It kind of depends on the animal. Some of them hydrate faster than others. So just gonna let that sit, periodically check it, and then once it's ready, I'll start working on it. Been working on the form. Had to do a bunch of modifications to it. Just with the sander, kind of take down. I didn't like the angle of this. I changed that a little bit. Narrowed up this jaw because it was a little bit too wide for this guy. Shortened it up a little bit. Nothing crazy. Just a bunch of test fits and just keep testing and tweaking it until you get it fitting right. So what I'm going to do now is get the eyes set, and then I'm going to actually paint the inside of the mouth and get all that done before I put the hide over it. It's just easier to, you can reach in there and get all the places, and then after you get the hide on and everything's all in place, you can touch up any of the places you need to, but I find it's easier to paint it before you get the hide on there. There's just less to work around everything else. So, for the eyes, I'm just going to take some clay, a bit of clay, each of the eye holes here. A little bit of clay around those eyes and kind of roughly get them into shape. The eyes on this Wolverine are going to be a bit of a challenge. I think I mentioned earlier on, I didn't skin this Wolverine, it was brought to me already skinned. Whoever did the skinning made the one eye hole quite large, which is going to be a bit of a challenge to fix, but we'll get her done. Again, same thing. Push that eye in there. Really important to make sure your eyes look symmetrical. Look at them from all different angles, make sure one's not higher or lower than the other one, make sure they're both the same distance. It really ruins the mount if you have one eye looking up and one down. It needs to be symmetrical. So take time with it, get it done right. Save yourself a lot of headaches having to try and take stuff apart or modifying it once you have the hide pulled over and half pinned into place and you realize the eyes don't look great. It causes all kinds of headaches. So. Now we got the eyes looking pretty decent. I'm going to start painting here, so I'm going to start with this one, which is just, it's called flesh color. It's kind of a nice dull, kind of a pinky color. I'm just going to go all inside the mouth. And once that's in there, I'm going to go over it with some of that shading gray color. Just darkens it up. Because you look at a Wolverine's mouth, it's actually fairly dark inside. Gums are all black. But I don't like the look of just pitch black gum. I like having that little bit of a fleshy undertone to it. So this just helps with that. There's no real magic to this. I'm literally just like reaching down inside as far as I can in the back, getting some color down there. So if somebody happens to be looking down inside the mouth, way down there, we're not seeing much of exposed foam. At least it's all got some color to it. So it's time for me to buy some paintbrush. dry, and then I'll go over it with some of that shading gray. You can see it's nothing crazy, it's just giving a little bit of color to that foam. Most of this is going to get covered by the hide anyway. It's just saves myself having to try and reach in around stuff after the fact. So give that a minute, and then we'll come back and do the other part. Okay, it's time to put some of this shading gray on there. I like this because it doesn't completely cover up the pink, it just kind of darkens it up a bit. Gives them kind of a fleshy gray color. Doesn't look awesome right now, but trust the process. It all comes together in the end, and it will look good. This thing with taxidermy, a lot of times as you're doing it, the whole time you're doing it, you're like, oh my god, what am I doing? This is not working. This looks like crap. What have I done? And then you get to the end and you start finishing it up, and you're like, oh, there it is. So don't get discouraged if you're working on something and you're looking at it going, oh, this does not look great. Because a lot of times it doesn't really look great until it does. There. Same thing, just Q-tip and kind of get the hide prepped, and we'll start putting this thing in there, and yeah, hopefully it looks pretty good. Like I said, I'm a little worried about that one eye, but I think we'll be able to fix it. This guy in here. This I'm gonna actually start with the lower jaw, I think. That kind of pinned into place, and then I'll start pulling the other part back, the top part back. So first thing I'm going to do is take some glue. This lower jaw with this glue. sides and that's even on both sides. I'm not sure what that piece is called. This guy I'm using my bigger pins, thicker pins, because I really want to hold it in place until that glue's dry. I don't want it moving around at all. Gets it kind of half positioned in place. This top part back. So here's the one eye that looks decent. And there's the other eye there. So that one's gonna be a bit of a bitch, but we'll get it. Just gonna throw one pin and 2 eyes to kind of hold that where I want it. Scissors. A little bit too much gum here, so I'm just going to try to clean that off. Normally you have the whole inner eyelid to work with and everything, but I was left with this. So pin everything kind of as much as I can in position. Just hope the throats are a little narrower than a little bit bigger. Pinhole to fill in after. One went pretty good. Must be gonna Let's try. At least that looks good. This one, on the other hand, is going to be a bit of a challenge. Pretty much when you're in a situation like this, the best thing you can do is just start pulling it together, kind of 8,000 pins later, sort of hold everything. it's a good idea if you want something done for taxidermy. I've seen one of the same thing about even the taxidermist an extra challenge. Never looks as good. Fix stuff. Expressions. Got the eyes all pinned in. This one turned out better than I was expecting, so I'm happy with that. So right now, I'm just kind of making sure this is all smooth. I'll throw a couple pins in here. Oh, we got that glue on there just to make sure this all stays nice and doesn't fold up or anything until that glue sets in. Pin the ears. There, look at it straight on, make sure that everything's where it needs to be. That's looking really good. Just hold that. So I'm quite happy with the way that's looking right now. So I'm going to put a fan on this, guys. It will dry, and then once that's done, then all the tedious work starts. That's when we got to start putting the backing and the edging and everything else on this guy, and that's definitely the time-consuming part of this project. I've got him in front of these fans most of the day. You see he's still looking pretty good. Everything's pretty well where I left it. Nothing shifted too much. Last thing I'm going to do for today is I just sprayed these feet down with some salt water and put them in these bags. I'll leave those overnight. So that should soften them up overnight. And then tomorrow I'm gonna flatten these feet out and get them looking the way they should, because you can kind of see through there. The toes are all kind of pointing whatever directions they feel like, so I want to get them nice and flat and spread out so they look good. So I got all 4 feet bagged up and wetted down. So I'm gonna leave him overnight with the fans, and we'll come back in the morning. It's the next morning. So I took the bag off this one. You can see this foot's flexible now, so I can actually kind of bend it and put it where I want it. So when I originally blocked it on the floor, I wasn't worried about the position of the toes. I just wanted the main thing to get flat, so now I'm going to start tweaking it. So when I dried, these toes were kind of all just gnarled and everything. You want them to sit nice, be straight. Like I kind of been twisting this one a little bit here. So what I'm going to do is take some clay and pack some clay up inside the toes to fill those out, and then I've got this little block of wood that I'm going to slide up in here as well. The reason I'm doing that is this is going to help keep that foot totally flat. As well, when I'm done this, I want to be able to put some hooks on the paws and on the bottom of the head, so if you want to hang it on a wall or something like that, you have a hook to hang it from. And this gives me something solid to anchor that hook into, rather than trying to sew it in or something like that. It's going to be rock solid into this piece of wood, so you don't have to worry about that going anywhere. So first thing, take some clay, pack that into each of the toes. Just help fill those out. Stick this guy up inside there. Get it? You can see it's going to hold that paw super nice and flat. Like that. I can get those toes kind of positioned where I want them. To anchor that into place, I'm just going to throw a couple staples in here. Now that foot can sit there and dry, and when it dries, the toes are all nice and spread out, they're straight, they're not twisted or anything like that, they're all even. That clay filled them out nice, so they look good and thick. And we have a nice good anchor spot for that hook. As well, when we're putting the felt around it, it gives us something we can kind of staple some of that felt to here as well. We get it's easy to sew on the edges, but when you get to where the toes are, we give us something solid. We can just throw a couple staples in there quick to hold that felt around the edge. So I'm going to do that to the other 3 feet, and then move on to the next part. The next step, which is probably one of the most time-consuming, or the beginning of the most time-consuming part, is putting the felt all around the Wolverine. So the first thing I got to do is I've got this 1.5 inch kind of like double-sided velvet ribbon, and I'm going to pin it all in place like this, kind of give it a ripply effect on it. I've got about 20 feet of it, so I'm going to pin this all, sew it, move the pins down, fold it all up, sew it, go away. So I got all the way through, because you need it. It's a shocking amount of ribbon. You need to go all the way around a fur. But get this all sewed up. After that's all done, then I have to hand sew that onto the actual hide, and then I got to take another layer of felt and some padding and put that in there. Like, it's definitely the most time-consuming and tedious part of making a rug. So I'm going to keep pinning this, essentially just double over and back. The hardest part about this is just making sure that folds are roughly the same size. I don't measure it, I just do it by how it looks. As long as it's roughly the same, no one's going to notice if it's slightly bigger, slightly smaller. You don't have to sit there with a tape measure, but just make sure that it's at least roughly the same size. So just keep going. This. If I had enough pins, I would just pin the whole thing, but obviously I don't have 20 feet worth of pins, so. Make sure it's looking relatively even. Make sure you check it often, because there's nothing worse than getting a whole thing all pinned out and then you look back and one like 6 pins ago was way off and you have to take all of it out to make it even up again. So. Alright, and then you just start sewing this. Unfortunately, I have to pull these out, but it's better to catch it now than... Okay, so pull all these out, start pinning in, and just keep going all the way until we've got enough done up. All this does is just gives this, let's see, gives it kind of just a little ripply effect, gives it a little bit more, so it just looks a little bit nicer. It also, when you're starting to go around corners, like around the legs and things like that, it just makes the felt look nicer as it's going around those corners. So I'm going to keep working on this and then show you what it looks like when it's done. Everything's dry now on this guy. It's all rock solid, so it's time to take the pins out. And we're gonna do a little bit of touching up and some painting. The eyes look like they turned out okay. Good. In there. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take my brad nail pusher and just put a couple in here just to help hold it. It's already all glued down, but it doesn't hurt to have a few of these in there as well, just to help hold it all in. I like using this brad nail pusher because you don't have to worry about it blowing right through the hide or anything. Something big like this Wolverine, it's not a huge concern because the hide's pretty thick, but you know, some of the thinner skin stuff, if you use an actual like pneumatic one, it'll a lot of times just blow the nail right through. So this guy here, you know, it's not gonna do that. So each ear. You can't really put too many of these in there, right? Like, as long as you're positioning them so they don't show up. It does not hurt to have a lot of these in there just to help hold everything together. There. Next thing I'm going to do before I start painting is just touch up with a little bit of clay in some of these places I think could use a little bit of help. Like there's a bit of damage to his mouth here. I'm just going to try and smooth that out a little bit with some clay. A little bit of texture so it's not just totally smooth. And at least it fills in some of those weird missing gaps over there. A little couple spots. Just a little bit of fill in too on the jaws. So same thing, just that clay. Fill that all in. good. Much more. There. That's alright. Put a little bit in the lower jaw here. Go in around where those teeth were just to fill the gap a little bit. All I'm doing here is just kind of anywhere where the hide split a little bit apart from the jaw or the form. I'm going to fill that gap in. Give it a more of a smooth transition. It helps make it look better overall at the end. That's looking better. So give that a chance to dry. I'll get the air gun, the airbrush and set up. I'll start painting some of the eyes and the nose. And hopefully by the time that's done, this clay dries pretty quick, especially when you only have little pieces like that. So hopefully the mouth will be dry enough. We can start painting that too. Right, I'm going to start off with this eye. Just do a little bit of brown. This one. Open it up a little bit. Take my Q-tip, wipe off the paint from the actual eye. It's looking a bit better. Take some of the paint off around here just to smooth it out a little bit. Do a bit more fixing on this eye. I wanted to put a bit of paint on it just to kind of see what it's looking like first. And I can almost touch it up a bit more after, so it's looking not bad. Next thing I'm going to do is just airbrush kind of in the jaw here. You can see it's kind of faded out a bit just to darken that up. So I'll do just a bit of that dark brown just to kind of help darken some of that. Darken some of that up a bit. same thing. I'll just kind of take that Q-tip and go over the, or just get some of the excess paint off of there, but at least it still covers the leather part underneath, just makes that look a little less faded out. Clay's had a bit of a chance to dry, so I'm going to start here with some brown, give it a base, and then I'm going to go over with some black later and darken it up more. At least this will give it a base coat color. That's looking better. Okay, switch to black. So I'm going to paint the nose. Better, and then I'm just gonna go on the eye a little bit, just around the edge of that eye. Make sure the edge of the eyelid is black. This one. That changes his complexion quite a bit, makes him look much more lively. Good. What I want to see is just a little bit here. It needs some extra paint here. Go. That looks better. There, that brings some life back into him. Next thing I'm going to do is just around the lips. I'm just going to do a little bit of black. looking better. Get a little bit of overspray on the teeth, it's not a big deal. Get that off of there. Honestly, I don't think it's a bad thing to have a little bit of the dark on there anyway. I've never seen an animal with perfectly white, shiny teeth, so having a little bit of paint in there just adds some color to them, just makes them look a little more realistic in my view. You don't obviously want an excess amount of it, but a little bit here and there isn't the worst thing either. Oops. Chipping away some of my clay there. Okay. Just a little bit. It's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to switch to the hand brush. Do a bit of painting with that. What I'm doing now is I got some light pink. Very light pink. I'm just kind of going inside here. Excuse me. I'm also putting a little bit on the top of that gum line. Just kind of blend it in. It just makes it look a little more natural than just having a real harsh black lip. If you look at your reference photos of what a Wolverine jaw looks like, it's not super black. There's quite a bit of pink in there, so it's fairly dark, but there is still pink. So I'm just kind of going over in the black, mixing with that pink. Makes it just about the right color. I like taking the Q-tip as well and just kind of blend those two together so it's not, again, such a harsh black to pink line. Is more of that natural transition. At this point I've got everything blended in pretty good, so I'm just got a little bit of black and I'm just darkening up kind of along the edge there just a bit. Smooth it out with my finger, just kind of make that transition look a little more natural. bit of a spot there with the leather, so just gonna darken that up too a little bit. Same with the other side. I'm just kind of lightly putting that black, not coating the whole thing, just giving it some darker highlights, I guess would be a word for it. Just so it's not all one solid color. Kind of has a little bit of life to it, I guess. At this point, I think that's looking pretty good. When you look at it there, it looks like a Wolverine. So I'll let that dry, and then see if we need to touch up any spots after that, but I think that's looking pretty good. Time to start sewing the ribbon around the edge. So for that, just come from the bottom side. You can come from this side up, and then I'll go to the leather side. And push it up from the leather, pull through. And this kind of brings the felt and the leather together evenly, so there's going to be a big ripple there, a bump there. And you just keep going all the way around, keeping my stitches about 3/8 of an inch apart roughly. About every couple inches or so I'll knot it off, and you just keep going all the way around. Make sure when you do this, I'm putting my stitches about 1/8 of an inch in on the leather side, about 1/8 of an inch in on the ribbon side. That way there's a good amount of meat there that it's grabbing, so you don't have to worry about your stitches ripping through or anything like that. So do one more here, and then I'll knot it off. Not too much. Just try and keep the hair on the right side as you pull through. If you have a little bit, it's not a huge deal, but just try and avoid it as much as possible. So pull that tight. And just keep going. So I'm not going to film this entire process because it's going to be as mind-numbing for you to watch it as it is for me to do it. But I will periodically turn the camera back on if there's any key moments that might be of value to you to see. But in the meantime, this is where I'm going to be. One other thing I just thought of that I should have mentioned earlier is for your starting point, if you can find a spot like on a Wolverine, the tail is really thick here, where the hair is going to hide the ribbon. So when you get all the way around to their side, you can connect these two. If you have any like stitches that might be a little bit exposed there, or the seam where the two come together, if you can find a spot where the hair is naturally going to hide that, so much the better. It's not always an option, but if it is an option for you, keep that in mind. Okay, so I got the first foot here done. So what I did is I sewed it up as far as I could to about here. And then I just took the stapler and stapled this all around to here into that wood, and then picked up the stitches again and kept on going here. So you can see it kind of looks like that. That's on there pretty solid. Ain't gonna go anywhere. I might try and put a couple stitches through here just to help hold it, but mostly it's gonna be those staples. And then when we put the final backing on here, that's going to cover up all these staples anyway. So yeah, I'm going to keep on going at it and hopefully get this done sooner than later. Okay, so I'm at the next foot here. So I got it sewed up to here. So I got that piece of plywood in here, so I'm going to staple this. There we go. Just try and... There's the edge of my wood right there. I'll put another one here. And just kind of go all the way around. More there. That's pretty good. So there's the foot. And then I will keep on sewing down towards the head. Alright, I've come up to the head, so I've sewed it up as far as I can get it. Now I'm just going to staple here. Try and make sure that's roughly even. Kind of doing this awkwardly because I'm trying to make it so I'm not totally blocking the camera, but more. That looks really good. And I'll pick up the stitches right about there. I might also give this one a staple right here. Good. Okay, so I'm finally at the end here. So I left this little part sticking out here when I started making the actual wavy pattern. So what I've done is I've kind of pulled some of the stitches back, and then that's all going to get sewed together like this. So it'll still kind of have that pattern. It's a little bit narrower there, but because we put it where this tail is, it's going to hide it pretty good, and it kind of makes it almost a relatively seamless transition. So hopefully sew this up and it'll all look pretty good. Oops, bump the camera. But so making sure when I'm sewing this, I'm trying to sew through all these layers together and kind of bring it all together. Then I'm going to sew past where I started a little bit, just even a couple stitches just to really lock that all into place. That. And this little piece here, I'm just going to kind of trim rounded, so when it's laying flat, you don't have a corner poking out. You can see that doesn't look bad anyway. And this is all going to get covered when we do the bottom piece. So there, that's finally done. My fingers are absolutely killing me, so I'm going to take a break. Next step is to add some padding to the underside. This is just 1/4 inch. I don't even know what it's for originally. I got it at a craft store. It's just 1/4 inch kind of foamy padding. So that's going to do is help this hole hold its shape as well. It just gives this a little bit more body, so it'll look a little nicer when it's all done. So all I'm going to do is lay this out like that, and then trace around and cut it, and then it's just going to get glued in place until I get the bottom sheet on there, and then that'll really hold it all in place. So I'm just going to trace kind of out roughly the shape that I want it to be. I can always trim it up after the fact. Something like that. So I got the padding in position now. I trimmed it up because you want it all just over the leather part. So I'm just going to take a hot glue gun, and it doesn't have to be a lot of glue. It's just to hold it in position until we get the last piece of felt on it. So just enough to kind of hold it so it doesn't move around or shift on us. So I'm just going to lightly tack glue kind of on the tail and the legs. Just like that. Put a little bit in the middle here as well. You can see doesn't take much to hold it in position. It's just temporary anyway. There. And under the head. Like that. Add a little bit more in a couple spots. There. I'm gonna go get a couple pieces here just for the ends of where the feet are and get those glued into place, and then we'll flip it over and go on to the next part. Now that I got the foam all glued down, next step is to glue the Wolverine to this big piece of felt. That's going to cover up the whole bottom part, and then I'll just trim around the edge afterwards. I'll have to sew it all in place as well, but to start, we're just going to lightly tack it in place. So I'm just putting a bit of glue kind of right around the stitch line. That I did with the edging piece. All right. Right like this. Press that down, make sure it's good and set in there. You don't have to go around the whole entire thing, but try and tack down a good amount of it all the way around. especially around the armpit areas, the legs, where there's likely to be a little bit of shifting around as you're trying to glue it. Make sure those places are all locked down really good. Like I go around the whole end of each leg, make sure those are all really glued down nicely. So I don't want a whole lot of shifting around as I'm trying to sew this. I want it to stay flat because I want the bottom piece to stay nice and tight, so it looks good. Right at the base of the tail on both sides. And then along the tip of the tail. I think I need to buy a new glue gun. This one's starting to kind of be a little more frustrating to use than I like. Down in there. Same thing, all around the bottom of the foot. That, I'll go around and just kind of glue it in a few more spots just to make sure it's good, and then once that's all dry, we'll start sewing again. Last thing we got to do is sew the bottom piece of felt onto the edging piece of felt, and this you just got to go super slow and careful all the way around. Alright, we're getting really close to being done this guy now. The next step is to take your pinking shears and just trim off the excess felt all around. You can leave as much or as little as you want sticking out past the edging piece. I usually go pretty close to it. The last step to finish this Wolverine rug is we have to put some hooks on the back of it. So that way if you want to hang it on a wall, you have somewhere to hook it onto. You want to make sure that the hook can free spin on the screw, and you don't want to crank those down all the way. You want them to be able to turn, so no matter what angle it's on the wall, that hook is going to be in the right position. So we're going to put one in each paw right into that block of wood we put in there. That gives us something to screw that hook into. So kind of go right sort of in the middle of where the paw is. I just take a punch, go through there, and then screw it down. And just make sure that that hook can still spin around on that screw, so that no matter where it is, it's going to be in the right spot. Do that on all 4 feet, and kind of right in the middle. Good. And then the last one goes right here, kind of underneath the chin. And this one here, you just got to make sure your screw is not so long that it sticks up inside the mouth. These screws are only just over ½ an inch long, so I don't have to worry about that, but something to keep in mind if you're using longer screws. You don't want to all of a sudden have a screw go up through with a tongue or something like that. So there we go. A little bit tighter, but there. So now this can be hung up on a wall, or if you flip it over, if you have it laying on a floor, something like that, you're not going to see those hooks. Or draped over a couch or something like that, but it just gives you the option to hang it up or do anything else. So yeah, that is pretty much, I think, the last thing we got to do with this guy. Just give it a once over, brush all the fur out of it, make sure there's no sawdust or anything in there, or dust, or just anything else might be in there. And that is our completed Wolverine rug.